I know, that's exactly what I was thinking. I'm not interested in what I'm saying. I'm not going to do all day. No, we done got so many women.
Tag team a couple of us, huh?
I know. You want to spread it?
Did each do a period?
That sounds good. How do you think it's feeling tonight? Have you seen the news? Superintendent, welcome back. That's all board meeting for the young superintendent because of this. This will be all I want to call. Remember, Aaron?
$20 too.
This is my board call. It's one of the last time. Oh, yeah. Of course I did. Actually, I just didn't know how to get it out of there. That helped us. We said,
I can help over there, let me know.
okay, well, really nice. So just sit ahead and what's wrong with this dude?
I would like to thank everyone for their attendance at tonight's Pitt County Board of Education meeting for October 21st. Formally call this meeting to order. Ms. Waters, if you would lead us, please, in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under item 3, moment of silence, Mr. Forbes, if you would, yes, please.
We could continue to remember our student, staff, and family, and so far having a good, safe school year, and hopefully we'll continue to have that and be with all of our families and support them. Let's have a moment of silence, please. All right, thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mr. Forbes. This time under item 4 in the routine business, item A, adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments?
I would just like to add that on November the 18th, at that meeting, the North Carolina State Board Association's annual conference is in Greensboro, and some of us are going, so I just wanted to acknowledge that, so maybe that we can switch our meeting for that month or time or whatever that needs to be done, since some of us are going to be attending that. How many are going? It's tradition.
I think at least 2 right now, if not 3, I may go.
Possibly 3 members? I think you're up to maybe 4. Okay. Could we put that as an item on the agenda for discussion by the board?
Where should we put it?
I would recommend maybe under new business, item E. Item E under new business, November 18th, board meeting date. Ms. Pippin, did you get that? Do we have a motion?
Second.
I need someone to make it.
I make a motion that we discuss the item regarding the date change or due to some of the members going to Ms. Mildred, where were you going to accomplish?
The North Carolina State Board Association's annual conference in Greensboro, 18th, 19th, and 20th. 18th is on that Monday.
It's been moved by Mr. Forbes. Is there a second by Mrs. Williams?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor? Aye. Let's pose the same sign. Motion carries. Item B is public expression. We do have 3 individuals this evening that are signed up for public expression. Lindy Bertrand. Ms. Bertrand, can you come forward, please? Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me to come and talk. I'm going to read you a letter that'll be appearing in that letter to the editor to the Daily Reflector tomorrow. This is going to be about the fundraisers that go on in that school district. I have 2 grandchildren that go to 2 different Pitt County schools. A couple of weeks ago, both of them brought home these fundraiser folders, complete with the brochures and all the stuff. In each one was a letter saying, sell this many items and your child gets to go to the main event. You know what a main event was. I called the school and asked and was told that the main event is a carnival-type event held in the school gym on the school day during school hours that is open to every child that sells the demanded number of products. If you sell 10 or more, you get to go. If you sell 9 or less, you're not going. I called both principals of the school and spoke to them. One principal told me he hated fundraisers, but the PTA approved it. I also let him know he signed off on it. The other principal told me she didn't understand me complaining. Nobody had ever complained before. They've been doing it like this for a long time. Doing it a long time doesn't make it right. She also told me that my grandchild, my grandson, will be allowed to go. She will personally go and get him because I complain. So I asked her, what about all the other children? And she said, well, nobody complained about them. Well, I'm here to tell all you guys, I'm complaining on their behalf. It is unfair to have a child in a room doing, as one principal told me, fun stuff, while the other children go and do bouncy houses and things like that. I know that the schools have to have some kind of fundraiser. My son is a disabled Iraqi war vet. He has got full military benefits and honors. He can't go out and do all this fundraising. The ideal of my kindergarten-age granddaughter sitting in that room, unable to go to the main event because she did not sell enough items, is unfair. This is a hard economical times for a lot of people. I just think it's totally unfair. If you will do it on the weekends, do it at night, some other time, I don't have one problem with it at all. But I think it's entirely unfair to put children in the room and she said, oh, well, the kids don't know. I guarantee you kids are going to come back and say, hey, we had the best time on the bouncy slide or the fun house or something else. I don't send my children, I told her, they are not the school's sales force, and exclusion has no part in education whatsoever. It's hard enough for kids nowadays. A lot of kids, and you know, a lot of kids get left out of activities that a lot of the other kids get to do. School should not be the place where that happens at. I have wrote a letter to the editor. It will be published tomorrow, he told me. I'm hoping that some parents and grandparents in the public will call you guys and just let y'all know that we're all about supporting the school. I nominated my grandson's teacher last year for WITN's Teacher of the Year, and she won. We love the schools. Hats off to the teachers. I've got nothing but respect for them. But this is not the way to go about making a fundraiser. And I would just ask that you guys take that into consideration and think about all the children that are going to be sitting in the rooms.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chair, in accordance with our policy, I have a question for the commentee. Could you repeat your name for me, ma'am?
Randy, R-E-N-D-Y, Bertrand. Bertrand, with a B.
E-R-T-R-A.
With a B or a V?
A B. B-E-R-T-R-A-N-D. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that you were my son's principal at one time. Years ago.
Miss Jackson, correct? One of your phone calls was not to Miss Jackson, just for the record, though.
It was not.
Appreciate everything your son did in Iraq.
Why, thank you very much.
And if you would stick around, you'll hear a fundraiser discussion later on in this board meeting, ma'am, just so you know, if you have the opportunity.
I live in Renton and I've got to work here, drive home to work in one, but I appreciate it. Just really wish y'all think about it because a 6-year-old doesn't understand that.
Thank you for coming tonight, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Our next speaker this evening is Emily Kleindes.
Get all kinds of things.
I understand.
I am Emily Kleindes, and I'm the president of Pitt County Association of Educators. And on behalf of PCAE and the Pitt County School employees, I just wanted to say thank you to members of council who came out to our back-to-school picnic on October 12th. I know it was a busy day. A lot of you applied, and I appreciate that. A lot of people were out of town, and we had a big game that weekend, ECU. But I wanted to tell you thank you for coming out and showing your support for us. Not only did the executive board appreciate the one-on-one conversation, but so did Pitt County School employees and their families. And so we put your picture in our newsletter.
Thank you so much. Jennifer Bryan.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Bryan. I'm a social studies teacher at South Central High School, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the faculty and staff at South Central High School. November 18th through 23rd is American Education Week, a celebration to honor individuals who are making a difference in ensuring that every child receives a quality education. As a part of this year's American Education Week, South Central High School will be conducting the Education Engagement Project. This event invites community leaders such as yourself to experience a day in the life of a teacher. Participants in the Education Engagement Project will be paired on a day of their choice with a host educator at South Central High School. Participants will have the opportunity to collaborate with the host educator in lesson planning, co-teaching, classroom management, and other extracurricular duties that go on between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. The purpose of the Education Engagement Project is intended to demonstrate to public officials and other stakeholders the successes as well as challenges our students and our schools are facing. Tonight you are being given an invitation for our principal, Ms. Julie Carey, as well as a reply card. We ask that you check your calendar, select a date, and return the reply card by November 1st if your schedule permits. If you have any questions, you may contact me at the school. My email is provided in that letter. I would love to stay around and answer questions after the meeting, but I'm going to give the same invitation to the commissioners downstairs. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service to the county and the students.
Thank you. Thank you.
With those comments, that concludes our public expression for this evening. Our next section, item C, is Spotlight on Teaching and Learning. Mr. Letchworth.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the first two items in the spotlight, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Timothy Greasy to come up. This is more his area of expertise, and he's going to introduce the two people that we spotlight, or the two groups that we spotlight.
Good evening. The first group we're going to look at is our Impact Ventures group, and specifically the one from W.H. Robinson. Impact Ventures is a technology program that we do where we take our best teachers in the district to an application process, and then we're able to apply for technology. In this case, Robinson, each of those teachers got an iPad card in the classroom. So we work with them over the summer, and they currently have to do 120 hours of professional development to train these teachers to integrate that technology into the classroom. And so my staff works with them to give them the tools that they need and the resources. But we just do that top layer, but these teachers are the ones that are actually making it happen, so they're going to come and share what they are doing in their classroom to transform teaching and learning into a digital learning environment. So I'll let them go.
Hello, thank you so much for having us tonight. We actually prepared a little presentation for you to kind of introduce us, and so we're going to use your projector here. At technology, you think I know how to make this project for you, but I'm afraid if I press the wrong button, I might shut it down. Did you get it?
Oh, I didn't touch it,
Okay, here we go. Okay, so
Yeah, just click on, no, I'm sorry, just enlarge it right here. There you go. Okay, and I'll All right, we just prepared a little, oh, well, it's still clean the air filter, but just basically, it begins by, we do have everything pulled up here ready to go, but it begins just by introducing us. We span kindergarten through 3rd grade. This is Heather Landreth. She is a kindergarten teacher, and she has 32 iPads in her room. I'm a 1st grade teacher. My name is Donna Pagano. I have 32 iPads in my room. This is Jennifer Lane. She has 32 iPads in her classroom, and Gina Locklear. She also has the 32. So we've worked very hard on how to use technology, not only to get content to the students, but also to give them chances to create and demonstrate their learning and their understanding of concepts, really develop some good critical thinking. So while we're waiting for that to come up, basically we wanted to take a moment after introducing ourselves to describe to you what a blended learning environment is. It's something that will be on the Prezi, but I don't want to make you wait. So, blended learning. Would you like to go ahead and take off from there while we're waiting for this to come up?
Just to give you an idea of what blended learning is, it's sort of a new way of teaching in the classroom. Instead of us standing in front of the room and telling the kids what to do and then having them interact back and forth with us. Here we go. I'll go ahead. Basically, it involves some online learning. In the high school setting, part of the Impact Ventures grant, we had a lot of high schools that received Chromebooks for their classrooms instead of iPads. And so for them, a lot of what they're going to be doing is having lessons posted online in different formats. The kids can view those on their iPads at home, their computers at home, smartphones, whatever device they happen to have at home. For kindergarten through 2nd grade, it probably wouldn't be the best decision to stick your kindergartner on a computer and say, have at it. So, because at that point, it's going to take a lot from the parents. The parents are going to have to sit down with them, and unfortunately, we can't always count on the parents to sit down with their kid every night and do what we're asking them to do on a computer. So, for that reason, in our classes, we're providing them some extra time in the mornings when they come in. We have some web pages set up. We'll show you those shortly. But it gives them the chance to look at the videos. They're kind of getting some background knowledge on the topic. And so when we start our lessons and teaching, we don't have to cover all those little things. They already know a little bit about the topic we're teaching, and they can actually contribute right from the start. And it also gives us time to do more collaborative projects in the classroom. They can work together. They're going to do a lot more creating because they've already got that background knowledge there. We're not having to spend that time teaching because they've already got it.
Okay. And the reason that we were asked to come tonight, so a few months ago, right, when school started, we hosted a parent tech night. And basically what we did was we had the parents come into our classrooms with their children, and we did a project. We created Edu-Creations with the children, which is a project that you can create on the iPad, and the parents were able to work with the kids to design that project, record the students' voices talking about their families. It also gave us an opportunity to show parents what the iPads can do in terms of learning, because I know a lot of times when we hear, oh my goodness, we're giving children iPads, we just automatically think Angry Birds. But there's so much more there, but we haven't given parents those tools yet because they're not the tools that we're used to hearing about. So Edu-Creations is a tool that we talk them about. Blogging is one that I've used a lot, Kids Blog, where my kids get up there and they post things, they post their writing, they post their pictures. I post videos for them to watch, and then they can respond. So they're commenting and they're collaborating, which is what we need our children to do. We need them to understand that these tools that we have are for more than just playing, and what great impact we can have globally if they know how to use those tools correctly. So that's kind of what we were reinforcing with Parent Night, and I think the parents really got a lot out of it and learned a lot themselves about technology too, and how not to be intimidated by that technology.
So part of what we did at the beginning of the year with our kids is we created a school-wide acceptable use policy as a team. And we came up with this set of rules and guidelines to use with the kids throughout the year to hold them accountable for using these iPads, because we didn't want our kids to think, oh, I have an iPad, I have a toy on my desk all day long. So we repeatedly go over these rules with our kids and make sure that they're held accountable for these specific guidelines. And what we came up with at W.H. Robinson is I will use 2 clean hands to carry my iPad. I will always know where my iPad is located. I will let my teacher know when I see the low battery symbol. I will only use iPads apps my teacher has instructed me to use. I will never have liquids around my iPad, and I will make good choices when using my iPad. So we all have a poster in our room. The kids have signed this poster, and it's a good visual for them to hold them accountable for using the technology in their room.
Okay. And now we want to take a quick moment to just share our websites, because that's really where the rubber meets the road. That's really where we do our content delivery. It's kind of like a third or a fourth teacher. You know, teacher, assistant. You have your teacher, you have your assistant, you have your classroom set up, and finally, for us, it's our websites. It is a teaching tool for us. So, we have each of our websites pulled up here. And we will start with Ms. Locklier's website, and she's going to talk to you about how she uses Educreations on her website. Oops, sorry. Ms. Locklear, I'm not seeing yours up there.
That's Jen. Jen can go first. It's okay.
Okay. Jen, would you like to start with yours?
Yeah. I went ahead and pulled up my kids collaboration page. There's several pages. Is there a way to maneuver this?
You have to watch the screen to do it. And now
Okay, so this is actually the kids collaboration page. So when you see my whole website, this is just one of the many tabs. There's resources and there's parent communication and those sorts of things as well. But on this page, you can see I have the quote up there, 2 heads are better than 1. What we want kids to understand is that by collaborating, their ideas are just going to be expanded. So there are several different ways that they communicate, but one of my favorite ways for them to collaborate is through Kids Blog. And these are just a few that we have done throughout the year, and actually a couple that we did today. And I actually, for these, sometimes I'll post things that they have done for them to view of each other's. And so then they're collaborating that way. They're taking pride in their work. They're seeing that the learning products that they've created mean something. And the parents as well have these logins. They can see these at home. They can show their parents. They can show their siblings. So it's meaningful that way as well. So this one was made by a student in my class, actually with her parent, not on Tech Night, but on Parent Night, because on Parent Night they also created some programs. And I just commented for them. I love how L'Oreal is setting goals to become a better reader. Great job. Click here to see her education. So if you click here, it would bring the kids immediately to what her goal was. And there's actually sound there too, where she says, my goal is to read the rest of the year. And then her dad is in the background and he says, more books. So that's what she wanted to do. And so, if you look further, even more important for the kids, as you can see here where the kids are commenting, also giving her feedback. So another student posted for her, I like the pictures, but you can add more details. So we always talk to them about positive collaboration. Make sure you say something positive, and then always, give some advice for how we can make improvement too. And she keeps saying that looks great, L'Oreal. Ms. Williams, that was nice of you to say. You get a lot of I love yous on, we talk about that too, about how to make sure that what you're putting up there is meaningful to content. Sorry, I'm having trouble maneuvering here. Here we go. Another one that is more curriculum-based, there's one from Tech Night. This student actually did one about, his writing was a role model student, so he wrote a paper about a role model student, and one of his published works was illustrating and creating educations. And on this one, I gave examples for the kids of how they make comments. So I said, post examples, and I said, for example, Sir J.A. read very fluently, and he recorded his story. He did a great job adding details with things that they could have commented, and you can see here they commented, you did a great job on your educations, nice job, I think you put a lot of work into it. So they're learning, the kids did this, so they're learning how to respond to their peers, and these are second graders, so they're really understanding that the feedback is important and the collaboration and the communication is important to improve. So that was my share.
Very much about constructing meaning through conversation and very valuable.
Okay, so, let's see.
Yeah, we're kind of hidden back there. This is doing something a little bit off.
Tim, why is it gray? Like you can't. Jen, did you X me out? Oh, here we go. That's not gonna try. So here is my webpage, and I wanted to show you. We have a link on here called, or a tab on here called Our Projects. My kids have been using EduCreations like Jen's kids to create projects. We're finishing up a unit on the human body, and they've been learning about the skeleton, and they can name all the important bones in their body. So each kid created an EduCreation, which is linked here from the website, which they can also view at home. So, for example, let's see. There should be sound, maybe. But like this child, we learned how to pull in clip art from the internet and how to choose appropriate clip art. We talked about labels, so she has labeled several of the bones of the body that she's learned, and then she typed a paragraph about her illustration and about what she's learned. And then there is recorded, you can see it's running, but then they have to talk, they have to read what they have created, and then other kids can go on and comment about their projects. Their parents can see what they're learning at home, and this is a good way for me to assess what are they learning at home, or what are they learning at school, as opposed to just having them write and draw about it. And they would much rather do this than write with pencil and paper. Where's my cursor? That's nice. Okay, and then here's one more. Same sort of thing. He brought in some clip art, he used labels, and then he typed about what he had been learning about the human body, and then his voice is on there recording what he wrote. So that's a little bit about EduCreations.
And of course, we all use EduCreations, and we use it in different ways, but there's lots of different things that we do in addition. This is my classroom website. I know first grade, so we've got a lot of writing on it, but we have a daily agenda that I post, and then I have a lot of links from that daily agenda, so we can view our poetry folder that we keep year-round, so the children can actually go right into the iPad, click on the poetry folder link, and they can see a year's worth of poems with a table of contents and other text features. So they really have something that's ongoing. So there's lots of links. A math warm-up, which is also on the same website, so we can have quick snippets of math every day, and then we can just move into something else. So we're constantly able to integrate curriculum and go back and forth using the website. What I wanted to share with you today, however, was the student work page. So on my student work page is just a page where I can post different things that the students do in the classroom. So we recently studied earthworms. We did some videos of the day that we released the earthworm, and we asked a question. There was a math question involved, and then it was some inquiry, and we took a picture and went back in the classroom and then decided based on this photo we have evidence that, and we can conclude that. So we were able to take that learning back after posting the video, and the kids were able to actually use the website to do something with it, because basically our websites are nothing but blogs. It's just one blog page after another where we can share ideas. So, and just some other ideas would just be pictures they've done, videos from experiments talking about partner work, videos of the worms for later reference when they're doing work, and of course posting some EduCreations as well. So it's just unlimited, our reading comprehension. So when guided reading groups do, we do written comprehension questions that we're dealing a lot with in Read 3D. We just post those right on the website. Okay? And now, Ms. Landreth You can share your beautiful page. I think she's going to be talking about the resources. We love using the student resources pages. Those are the best.
Actually, we're going to talk about the What We're Learning page. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier. If I can get the mouse to work.
What am I doing? Oh, yeah, you have to just look at the screen.
Yeah, it's not.
Oh, it disappeared on her.
There it goes. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we're actually going to do the What We're Learning tab. And this is what I touched on earlier, where the students can go on and view videos prior to coming to class. I have quite a few that we're studying community helpers this week, so there's several community helper videos I've posted for them. I like to integrate a lot of music into what I do because the kids love it. You put anything to a catchy tune and they get it. They sing it all day long. I'm singing it all day or all night at home. Can't get it out of my head, so you know it works. But the kids can view this on the weekends before they come to school and see, like I was saying earlier, get that background knowledge. My kids have free choice time in the mornings, and so this morning they came in and they have been viewing the old videos. Last week we were learning about spiders. So these are all really cool videos about whatever content we're learning. And they came in this morning like, Miss Landra, there are new videos on your website. I was like, I know guys, I put them there. Come see this. So it gets them really excited about what they're doing. And like I said, with the free choice in the morning, if they don't have time to watch it at home or don't have the capability to, they can view it in the mornings. And it's funny because all the apps that we have that it's like playing a game, but they're learning through it. There's all those fun apps for them to play to practice the skills they're learning, but they don't want to play those games. They want to view these educational videos, which I think is super awesome. And then, of course, I also, up here at the top, you can see each week I go in on Thursday or Friday for the next week. I go on and post what we're going to be learning, from math to science or social studies and whatever sight words we're focusing on that week. So over the weekend, if the parents want to go ahead and get them started, they can. If the kid misses a day of school, I have parents emailing me, calling me, hey, sorry, he's sick today, let's see this, and I just say, go to my website. And then they're ready to roll. So as you can see with all this wonderful technology we have, we think it's great. We're very excited about the grant. We've done a lot of learning this summer. We're still doing online courses to learn even more about what we can do in our classrooms with these iPads, and we think this is something that we should continue and get as much of this out there into the teachers' hands and the kids' hands as possible. So,
That's great.
thank you so much.
Mr. Kenny, you had a comment?
I was just going to say, I love your enthusiasm, all for it. We appreciate everything. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Ms. Vincent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Wonderful presentation and a great way of reaching and engaging students in class. That's a great tool. Item number 2 is the James J. and Mamie Richardson Perkins Trust Grant.
Before we close out on Impact Ventures, I want to say Impact Ventures is part of the technology plan that you all approved. Last month we talked about the long-range plan of how we were trying to train our teachers. So when we get to that point where we have a massive amount of technology, whether that's one-to-one or not, we have teachers in our district that absolutely know how to integrate it into the classroom. And so that was just 4 examples of teachers that are currently in our Impact Venture program. So we're trying to build towards the future.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you about the integration of the technology, and we had the 8,000, I believe that was distributed on Chromebooks. Is that part of that?
No, it's something.
It's separate.
Impact Venture is something totally different. These teachers that are in this program have to do 120 hours of professional development.
Okay.
The teachers that have the Chromebooks, they're doing no necessarily. They're not made to do professional development.
Okay.
They're using the technology, but they're not made to do 120 hours of professional development.
Okay. All right.
All right, the next thing I want to talk about is Falkland's media renovation. We're excited about that. But Falkland is one of almost 20 schools that have had a media renovation. Over the past 5 years, when I first took on this position, I met with Perkins Weston Wells and talked with Danny McNally about how we could better utilize that grant process. And so we came up with a plan for how we wanted to do that. And so we have been methodical over the past 5 years. We bring the highest need school to Perkins Weston Wells, and Joanna works with those schools to help write those grants so we can get that funding. So over that 5 years, we've had almost over $500,000 in funding to renovate almost 20 media centers. So that goes across the district. And so now Falkland is, I want to say, the last major overhaul. Now we're maybe we're going to do a partial renovation, and so we've made a lot of progress. So I'm going to let Ms. Lavin come and share what we're doing in Falkland.
Hello, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. My name is Cheryl, and I'm the meeting coordinator at Falkland Elementary School. At Falkland, we have about 450 students, and with our particular student population, the school library is their main source of books. These students aren't usually able to get a ride to the public library. The book fair is supposed to say come to a bookstore for many of our students. And we do have several students who will go to the public library and who will also go to a bookstore just for books. So we have over 9,015 book titles and a total of over 16,000 items in our library collection. I'm gonna see if I can steer this thing. Okay. One of the things that you will notice, and on the very last slide of my Prezi, you'll see the odd shape of my library. It is very peculiar. But this is just some distant shots of the library before the furniture comes in. The furniture that we're getting through this grant is we're getting all new bookshelves, tables, chairs, a circulation desk. It's been a true blessing. Next, please. One of the reasons we were brought to the Perkins Grant Trust Fund's attention is because our shelves are overcrowded. We're having to use the tops of the shelves, which is kind of a bit of a safety issue because the bookends don't secure it as much as a bookend with the wall of a shelf. And most of my shelves have books up on top because we've just exceeded our space. We do have an excellent book-to-student ratio, 20 books per student, which is phenomenal, but our collection age is at 1999, so I'll be doing quite a bit of reading coming up soon. And some of our shelves are falling apart. That first one you can see in closest to you, the facing is actually down a little bit, and we've done a temporary repair to get that up, but we have to keep our eye on it and keep repairing it. And parts of my shelves are falling off. You can see where the chunk came out there, and I just keep the chunk there to remind us how fortunate we are when we do get the new furniture. All right, so we do have a safety issue going on, but like I said, we monitor it constantly to make sure that it is not a problem for the students. Now to the rescue, our Perkins Trust Grant. We're getting $48,483 for furniture. This is a blessing. Our teachers, our parents, our students are so excited. And to know that this came from our community and our community cares about us to do this. It's wonderful. So it's kind of breathed a little bit of fresh air into the school. I'm just really excited about it. All right, so here's the odd shape of my library. Where you see the slanted wall, on the other side of that wall is actually the cafeteria. So I am one of the few libraries right up against the cafeteria. But the way that we've rearranged it, it's going to allow for more shelving. I think we're actually going to get more seating. We switched to laptops last year and put the desktops that were in the library out into the classrooms to replace some of the desktops that were no longer working or were probably about to die. So that really did help, and to get our main computer lab up to the number of computer stations to accommodate a full class of 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So with this setup, you won't necessarily see computer tables, but we do have a laptop charts, and that's what we're using in our library this year, and it seems to be working pretty well. Let's see. And also, you'll see the new color scheme. One thing about our old furniture is I found out that it was about 3 generations of furniture mixed together in one room, so we didn't quite match very nicely, and while it functioned, sort of, it was not aesthetically pleasing. And also, I've been talking to maintenance, and they're looking into replacing the red blinds. They're kind of worn out. I would, keep them if they were not worn out, but they are worn out. Our new furniture is set to arrive on November 26th, so the day before we get out for our Thanksgiving break. And the current furniture that is in working condition is being offered to the teachers in our school for their classrooms and for other areas around the school. So we're not just putting it out on the curb. always looking to see how we can reuse things. And I'd like to also say that I had an easy time of writing this grant because I did have the support of the Pitt County Schools media coordinators. They shared the grants that they had done for Perkins, Wells, and West in the past. We were fortunate enough that one of them decided to take the whole amount and not spread it out amongst the 3 of them, which is the Wells, West, and Perkins. Sometimes they'll spread it out so to cover the total cost. We were lucky to get it all under one. Are there any questions?
Can't wait to see it.
We plan on inviting you to our school to see the treasure. Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
I do have one question. How long does it take you to fill out that grant? Well, how long does it take you to work on it and get all the particulars together and all that information?
It took, it's hard to tell because it is a spread out process, and our grant cycle was hitting because we really couldn't wait to write it in the fall for the spring session. So it basically, I worked on it a little bit over the summer, and at the very end of last school year when this happened, and I started hunting for options. But thankfully Joanna hooked me up with the grants, and like I said, I was able to take a lot of what my coworkers had written and adapt it to actually reflect what Falkland has.
My point is that you are another proof of what our faculty and staff in Pitt County Schools do to go beyond the call of duty to make things happen for Pitt County Schools, and you ought to be commended, and all the teachers and faculty and staff that do similar things, we just appreciate so very much.
Thank you. We really do have a good school system here.
Lavin, on behalf of Superintendent Linker and Board of Education, thank you for your efforts and what you did putting this grant together. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you.
Great job.
Our next item on the agenda, Mr. Letchworth, is under state appointed leaders.
All right, a couple other things we can do in a couple of minutes. You've heard the name Joanna mentioned. I'm going to bring down a couple of people to be recognized for being chosen to represent our district in state leadership roles for a pair of state organizations. Ms. Joanna Durakis, and she's our district media and IT specialist, and Ms. Suzanne Dixon, an AIG teacher at Chicago for the past 15 years. Mr. Durakis has been elected president of the North Carolina School Library Media Association, which is an association that provides opportunities for media coordinators to network with one another and also figure out how to support teaching and learning through school library media programs. They also sponsor Battle of the Books, which you may be familiar with, along with a couple of other initiatives and fund grants and scholarships, and also advocate at the state and federal level as well. Some of our duties will be organizing the association state conference and acting as the state delegate in the National Association among other duties, I'm sure. Ms. Dixon was elected president of the North Carolina Association for the Gifted and Talented. That is a group of educators with a common goal of supporting academically gifted students, advocating for those students, and providing staff development for gifted education. It includes about 1,000 members, and Ms. Dixon will be leading the board of directors as they make decisions for those students, while also representing North Carolina in the National Gifted Conference and meeting with congressional leadership at the upcoming states affiliate conference. So I think that you all would agree that we're very fortunate.
Amen.
Ms. Gerakis, on behalf of Superintendent Linker and Board of Education, thank you so much for what you're doing for Pitt County Schools and our students. Thank you. Ms. Dixon, again, on behalf of Superintendent Linker and Board of Education, thank you for what you're doing for students in our district.
Great job, y'all. Ms. Dixon, I've always wanted to be in the same room with a president, so
What schools do they represent?
Chicago. I don't know the other one. Central Office staff in Chicago.
Under item 5, consent items, we have a motion.
Move to approve the consent items. Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Chemnitz and seconded by Mrs. Council. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, on the minutes from the last meeting, I would just like to note a correction on the record on the last page of the minutes, where we voted to limit board member comments to 2 minutes. I actually voted against that motion.
Thank you.
It says in the minutes that only Ms. Council did. I voted against it as well.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Ms. Pittman, if you'll make that correction. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? There being none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same sign. Thank you so much. Under item 6, new business. Mrs. Weddington, under item 8, Power School update.
Good evening. I'm here to give you a brief update on the transition of NC Wise to Power School for the state of North Carolina. As you know, we did transition to a new student information system over the summer. Quite an adventure for us, but has been somewhat smooth so far. But one of the things that is going on is we are still in the process of waiting for our ADM numbers. We are anticipating this weekend there will be an update or maintenance to Power School over the weekend to correct some situations with withdrawal codes, and not to go in all the technicalities, but to correct some things to move forward to getting our ADM numbers for the state. Today is day 40, just to kind of put that in perspective. We did successfully roll out high school report cards last week. A few bumps in the road on that. We're anticipating 3-8 report cards next week. That will be a little bit more, probably twice as many students to print. Our staff is trained as far as the data managers go. I've been very fortunate. I had selected a team of about 7 of our data managers that have worked with me for about a year now on rolling out training, anticipating problems, being able to make sure they ask the right questions. They have moved us forward greatly and has made my job much easier than trying to do it by myself. We started out with a team of 7. I do want to say we lost one to being accepted into medical school. We told him we would not hold his position if he wanted to come back. But so far some bumps, but considering the scope of the project and the type of
going from one thing one month to another month, and not running dual systems, it's been okay.
Good.
Any questions?
Okay, I just want to say, but I know there's going to be other board member comments that are probably going to be along the same lines, but this has been a difficult system that I know schools and systems across the state have struggled with, at no fault of yours, no fault of the teachers, the principals, and you guys have done a sharp job with making sure things have come out just in time. There's been no breathing room in terms of getting these things out quickly. The teachers have struggled with it, the data managers have struggled with it, they've worked tireless numbers of hours, I know they have, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of this board, this community, for your work to make sure reports have been out. I know the transcript process has been a nightmare for kids that are needing transcripts so they can show to prospective schools and so on and so forth. But you guys have really made this work, so thank you, and to the data managers and school employees that have done the hard work that kind of really doesn't get noticed, but thank you.
Can't add to that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
There we go.
All right, thank you. Item B is EPS committee, myself and Ms. Olmsted. Ms. Olmsted, if you would.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Just to do an update on the report, just a report on our last EPS board committee meeting, October the 3rd. Board members present were Gio County, Benji Ford, Christine Mark, and Mark Richards. There were two main items on the agenda to be discussed. The first one was the comparison data for student performance as it compared to graduation rates. That was a request from the previous meeting for making sure that the rigor in our student performance was still matching as our graduation rate was increasing. And so Mr. Jenkins, the 912 director, created a chart that compared the graduation rate to different indicators of student performance. Now, as you know, we don't have test data, so that hasn't been released yet. But we did take the 4-year graduation rate, which was an increase of 4.5 percentage points from the previous year, and we compared it to the number of students that took the SAT. The number of students that took the SAT decreased from the previous year, but that's because they had taken the ACT, which was required. The ACT stays basically the same because it's required all seniors to take it. All juniors to take it. The reading and math score for the SAT increased by 25 points. The high school dropout rate we still do not have. CTE proficiency dropped by 0.8 of a point. Work keys increased by 2.2 percentage points. The credentialing in CTE, where they can get a credential, which is a certification saying that they understand something that on the class, increased by 1,131. And the AP scores increased by 1.6%. So what we were looking for there was, as the graduation increases, are we dropping our standards? And so we were looking to see that we had not dropped our standards, even though the graduation rate. I think we are picking up, of course, we talked about picking up the extra 83 students with the new policy for graduating that the board passed, and also with Pitt Academy being able to work with long-term suspended students. That's where we're picking up our rates.
I got a question.
The math, what did you say about the math and reading?
The math and reading were on the SAT. That was the SAT portion, decreased by 25 points, from 952 to 977. Anything else? The second item that was discussed was the policy that went before the policy committee for immunizations, and that's just an update according to policy. And it's actually, you're going to be discussing it today for first reading. And then, as they got ready to close off the agenda items, there was discussion about fundraisers, which is also on the agenda for tonight, discussion about fundraisers. And Ms. Kamens just advised the EPS committee that it was in the policy committee being discussed and that it was going to be coming forward.
Very good.
And so that was the highlights of me. Any questions?
I do.
Ms. Williams?
Sure, the ACT scores at junior year, are we getting any feedback from parents and students as to when is the time for them to take it or around what time? notifications is getting out to the guidance counselors?
Yes,
And what the deadlines are?
Yes, we test all the juniors, so they know when test is coming, it's usually in March. We've already tested, along with the ACT, in preparation for ACT, we test 8th grade Explorer, which is called Explorer test. They've been tested already. They're in the window. Plan is the 10th grade, so they have already started their testing.
Okay.
And so it goes out just like all testing. This is coming, this is what we're gonna do, all the information rolls out from the school.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
That's why a lot of times for SAT, they're gonna they've already taken an ACT.
And I think it would be good for us to note that for those, because Sky High Schools in our district, the cost is also that underlying for the ACT, for the SAT, because they know that they pay, but if they're free and reduced lunch, they get to take it 3 times for free. And that information needs to, you see what I'm saying, get out there, and we're doing a much better job than we had in the past, and I want to tell you, thank you for that.
And also, students that want to take the ACT again, other than the one the state provides, there's a fee process for that too, so they can have it waived.
They can also get it waived.
As well.
Yes.
Correct.
Ms. Council?
Are there still scholarship opportunities out there that sort of look at our district SAT students? I know it once was, because one of my sons were contacted by a group that had seen his high ACT score, and they notified him to apply for the scholarship. Is that still happening, or?
I mean, I don't know particulars, but I would assume, I know I've looked at some scholarship applications, and they still have asked for SATs.
Okay, no, I'm not saying that. There are top organizations out there that fund education that used to. Now, my question is, are they still doing that? Because I personally experienced that some years ago, that this group, contacted, is a national organization, and they sent him a letter, because of your high ACT, you have an opportunity, you can't apply if you so choose. He did, and they give great scholarships. These are national organizations. Are they still doing that? And if they are not, how can we make sure that these organizations are doing that again, and our students are aware of that? Because I paid close attention. A lot of parents may not know to do that, because when anything came in my house, I checked it out. So we encourage our parents to, if they're taking these tests, finding out what is coming home. And you see, at that time, computers weren't as plentiful as they are today. But he actually got a letter from these national organization, exactly, and they gave him $5,000. And so, and it's great information to know, and they are looking for certain students to give their monies to. So I would just like to, if you can find that out and get that out for current students, it would really help our students be more opportunities for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Ms. Olmsted, for that information. Item C, under the Policy Committee report, Mr. Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first thing we have is policy 10.604 for first reading. There is a change under item number 3, which deals with Hep B doses, which came from our EPS committee. This is on for first reading only.
Any questions from board members regarding policy 10.604 for first reading? There being none, Mr. Kenny, item 2, second reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brought to us tonight for second reading is policy 7.018. This is a new policy regarding disability non-discrimination policy. It's here tonight for second reading. If there are no questions, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we adopt policy 7.018.
Second.
Mr. Kenny's made a motion regarding policy 7.018. It's been seconded by Mrs. Owens. Any further discussion or questions? There being none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Kenny, item 3, fundraiser discussion.
Fundraising, this is something that the policy committee began discussing some time ago. Several board members, anybody at this table has probably been contacted one time or another regarding fundraising by at least one parent. And there have been concerns about fundraising in our schools at in a multifaceted way and at many levels, I think it's safe to say. And what we discussed at the policy committee was perhaps coming up with a set of values to bring before the board to ask for adoption, and taking those values and then appropriately over time amending our current fundraising policy based on this set of values right here. I'd like to commend Michael Cowan and his staff who have worked diligently in researching fundraising here in Pitt County. And I think we open with the statement which says very clearly, Pitt County Schools, in the interest of minimizing the amount of instructional time spent writing receipts and keeping the financial burden of our stakeholders to a minimum, believes the following in regard to school fundraising. And then we go through numbers 1 through 7. I believe these values are very supportive of faculty. We want to be supportive of our community as well, and all stakeholders, and continue to partner with the community. And we would like to always put our schools first. We believe that these values do this, and with that statement, Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the Pitt County Schools Values Statement regarding fundraising.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kenny. It's been seconded by Mrs. Kamitz. Under discussion and questions, Mr. Forbes?
Well, the thing that I would say is that I agree that this really needs to be looked at. I mean, I just got a text a few minutes ago from my son, whose daughter attends a school. He had a picture, sent me a picture that says, another fundraiser. So, I mean, it is frustrating to these parents, and it is frustrating to the point that with all the outside agencies and also the principals, they do have control of what the PTA can do and cannot do in regards to fundraisers, how many fundraisers they have. I just think that this really needs to be adopted and looked at, and because we need to spend most of our time teaching, and the students need to spend most of their time home studying and applying themselves to their instruction. And parents would welcome that.
I agree with Mr. Forbes' statements on that. I know that my own child is asked to participate in a number of fundraisers and so on and so forth, and you know, the lady earlier had mentioned that her child was not going to be participating. My son's not going to be participating, but I mean, there becomes a time, and I never like to see students pitted against each other in terms of a group of haves versus a group of have-nots. That is just the worst of situations all the way around, any way you look at it. And I think it does need a strong look in terms of us making sure that we're treating kids fairly and doing what's right and recognizing them. Ms. Williams?
I agree with the fundraiser, but I also would like to be clear. If you look at number 7 on page 31, it says whole school administrators responsible for the monitoring of school fundraising efforts on their assigned campuses. This includes the approval and monitoring of all fundraising activities such as the ones conducted by PTAs and Booster Club. There's a distinct, those are two separate entities. And we need to make sure that the PTAs are in line with what their administrator at that school, because there are state rules that guide PTAs. There's no state regulations for booster clubs. So in their lines, in there where there may lie a problem, it may be a big problem.
I'm sorry.
But, okay.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Forbes is next.
I'm sorry.
Let me just say, as a principal, I was aware of what the booster clubs did and what the PTA did, and I signed off. If I didn't sign off, it didn't happen on my campus.
Exactly.
Good.
As the principal. It did not happen.
But, okay, and I agree. But there is a distinct difference between state guidelines for PTA,
Right.
which they have laws and bylaws to abide by. There are no such things when it comes to boosters. In lies the difference in K-5 or K-6 or whatever, then middle school, high school, you're going to have your band boosters. You see what I'm saying? There's a different amount of money here that we're talking
Right.
in students. You also have your academics, your booster clubs. That money should be under the same umbrella. It's got to be some kind of regulation here because it'll be a difference as to how much is raised and how much is obtainable and what we're going to put these
But the
schools.
thing that I was trying to get across was, I knew that fundraiser was taking place.
Oh, yeah.
So,
There's no doubt.
I was able to control, for example, a booster club could come and want to have 3 fundraisers that year, and I said, no, you can have 1 or 2, over what's decided upon. I mean, it was still, the principals can sign off on it. A lot of times there are fundraisers going on that the principal's not aware of.
But I understand too, but there's a difference in going to, down to Pine Knoll Shores and going to Paris. There's a difference in going to Pine Knoll Shores and going to New York. In your booster club and in your fundraising.
Oh, yeah.
You see, there is a distinct difference, and we must be specific in what that value statement is going to be as regards to how that's going to be done. And what finance is going to monitor that every penny and hold the administrators accountable. Well, how are you going to do this?
Two points before Mr. Kenny, if I could. I know in most school systems, and I would assume it's the same here in Pitt, is that the boosters are audited. When the system is audited, they're required to submit their books for review in the normal audit process. But there again, I know in other situations and settings, these types of fundraisers do not occur, should not occur, without the principal knowing about it and signing off on it with a finite period of time of what is expected to be raised, the purpose of the monies, and so on and so forth. Mr. If I could before...
There is a distinct difference between a PTA and a regular club organization at school.
Right.
But there are some clubs out there that have gone to the point of organizing themselves as a 501c3 organization, a charitable organization. So it depends on the makeup, and they do require audits now. Constance, our internal auditor, who has a very thorough review of the fundraising efforts here in Pitt County, carries on a relationship where we do look at the books of the boosters so that we can, because when it gets down to it, Mr. Forbes is right. The school administrator should approve everything's happening on that campus, whether it's a PTA, an external 501c3 group that's raising charitable dollars for the school, or it's just a regular club within the school, or even the school fundraiser itself. It's the point that we need a very close communication between the staff, the external entities, as well as the school administration to ensure that we're being very efficient in our efforts to raise money and that we're not nickel and diming parents left and right. And then even as a result, not even treating kids fair in the process. So that's the most, disturbing thing of what we're hearing is that we're nickel and diming kids and parents left and right, sending out the day. They're not even treating the students equitably in the process.
Right.
And one school may not be able to raise the level of funding as another school, and so they're not able to enjoy the luxuries of that school. So we're trying to create a more equitable system here. We're trying to make sure that dollars stay in the classroom and being utilized for student instruction, and that we're being focused on our job here as the school system is. And I think once we go through this process and we lead off of what Mr. King has started on the policy committee, we'll find that our parents will greatly appreciate this, and I also believe if we go through this process, they'll rally around this process.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Mr. Kenny, and then Mrs. Council.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, I want to thank you for pointing out number 7. Number 7 had extensive discussion, in the policy committee meeting, and here's why. One, couldn't agree with you more, and we chose two groups to point out as examples because they are so different. And number 7, the spirit of number 7 is to show our school administrators that they have the support of the Pitt County Board of Education to be the final say-so at their school. They give a thumbs up, they give a thumbs down, but nothing can occur without that principal having knowledge of it. There's a fundraiser going on, and the principal has no knowledge of it. They can put a stop to it right there, and they have our full support because it is listed in our values, and that we value our high school principals, period, and that is what we are saying clearly in number 7. So I want to thank you for pointing that out publicly, because that's the exact conversation we had in committee.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Ms. Councilman?
My question is, the external organizations, are they having to report what they raise per year to that school as a written document and being audited at the same time?
To my knowledge, and I think Michael can speak better to it.
Matter of fact, a well-run PTA will sit down with the principal administration as well as the PTA council of that school, and they'll review the financial statements and financial operations not only once a year, but at least on a quarterly basis, if not a monthly basis. And I mean, if you look across Pitt County and the size of the school system, it's almost a tragedy that we do not have more of a concerted effort on the PTA organizations to sit down with our school administration, look at what the needs are of that school, and make sure that both are working in conjunction with each other to do that. I mean, you can almost find situations, and Constance knows better than anyone, you would have fundraisers out there that are competing against each other. You got the school running a fundraiser, you got the PTA running a fundraiser, and
that's true.
You're not even focused on one overall goal here for the school. So, yes, to answer your question is that the financials not only are responsible for being distributed, but they should be when they meet on a monthly basis and organized.
One thing that I want to say before we shift over, and then Ms. Candace is next, and then Ms. Little, I don't want us to be remiss in recognizing our PTAs, because there are a lot of fine PTAs out there that are partnering, that are filling the gaps created by a number of things that I could speak all night. They are doing a good job in helping out our schools and supporting and doing the right things. I just think we need to tweak it a little bit to make sure that there's a lot of transparency and that we're minimizing duplication. Ms. Candace?
Sean pointed out that number 7 is intending to support the decisions that we're asking our principals to make in regards to fundraising on their campuses. But I would also add to that it is also making a clear statement that we are holding them responsible for these values, and we expect to see them reflected in the decisions that they're making about fundraising.
Correct.
Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Little?
I have a question. Especially in the high school setting, when you do have a lot of booster clubs, whether it's athletic or academic or band or orchestra or math club, whatever it might be. And most of those organizations have, and even at the elementary level, where I know at South Green we have the STARS campaign, well, that is considered the fundraiser, okay? And then you've got the PTA membership, which is actually considered a fundraiser, but you're giving a portion of that to PTA National. So
state and national.
Right. So the school's only getting a portion of that $5 membership or whatever it is, $4. So my question is, at these schools, is the membership in which somebody chooses to give to that membership to be a member of the band boosters or the orchestra or academic, is that considered the fundraiser, or can they do another one approved by the principal and the whole whatever, according to number 7? Is there a difference in that, or is that considered one thing? I'm just, because that's the question I've gotten out of this.
Mr. Chair, I want to be very clear, and thank you for the question, but we want to be real transparent and clear in that what we're bringing before the board tonight is a set of values on which we can build our fundraising policy and amend that. I think the question would be more specific to policy that we would need to adopt. values first,
Thank you.
if I may say so.
Well, I just want to get back to Mary's point in that having been a PTA president, it depends, and did all these fundraisers and blah, 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 and it was fine, and that's why a lot of these campaigns got started, because there were so many fundraisers, and we felt like if people just wanted to contribute, then they could. And some of them were with the blessing of the principals, and some principals didn't care, and some principals loved it. So it's at the, I think if we can narrow down that, it's a subjective topic in some ways of what's considered a fundraiser, what's considered just a donation, what's considered, and you're right, some PTA presidents just chug forward and say, we're going to do this no matter what you think about it. So, because they needed the money, and any principal is going to appreciate that money coming in and the time and the effort that the kids and the students and the parents went through to raise the money.
Ms. Stagger, if I could, it's very different having a set of values as opposed to a board policy to hold someone, as I'm hearing this board say, and it sounds like it's fairly unanimous, that we want to hold accountability in terms of if we want to have the superintendent to bend the ear of a principal and say, you're in violation of X, Y, and Z. There's not really much you can hold someone accountable to in terms of a value statement as opposed to a codified board policy, correct?
Exactly. And I was just hearing Mr. Kenny say that this was going to be a framework for amending the policy, and I think that the new policy really is the crucial piece if you want an enforceable guideline.
Enforceable
The value is sort of the sentiment of the board, but really you need a policy in order to make that enforceable.
Okay, very good.
And that would have to go through the normal policy adoption process or amendment process.
I believe Mrs. Owens is next. Mr., did you have?
I would like to make a comment.
I just want to know all of you got this. This is a catalog of fundraising. Thank you, Constance. And just go back and review this because it's just amazing what goes on in our schools this particular year. And I just encourage everybody to make sure that you know what's been happening and what we're going to do to corral it.
Right. Mr. Forrest?
Could we get a copy?
Go ahead, Neil.
Not this one, but could we all get a copy of that? You do have one, right? We got one.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, first of all, Sean and to everyone that is working on this, I like the approach you used to identify the values, because I'm going to be on the other side, at least I'm going to accentuate the other side for just a moment, because I've been in the fundraising business for 37 years, and it is a necessary evil, and it does a lot of positive things too. And that is that it teaches young people how to be entrepreneurs, and it teaches the value of how to keep up with and being a part of money and business, the business approach and salesmanship and all those other things too. So I just wanted to make that statement here because I think that's important. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forrest. All right.
Ms. Williams and Ms. Campbell.
Yes, and the reason why I want to clarify myself, that there is a difference, and we must all know that, between a booster and a PTA. And there are state and national guidelines that a PTA must follow, notwithstanding what a booster club does. And we want to make it equitable amongst the children. Being a former PTA president, former PTA council president, it was always about that school cycle for me. If school started in September and the kids fundraise, they reap their reward that school year. We didn't go, we were going to raise we're going to hold this meeting, we're going to buy computers next year. No. It's important that the children that do the fundraiser reap the rewards of their fundraising of that school year. So that's the intensive purpose for what I was saying. Booster clubs, is completely different. And when we get to our high school kids and our middle school kids, there's a distinct amount of money. There's a difference. And along with Michael, can put a handle on it. There's more transparencies, with the boosters or the other 504(c)(3)s or whatever they are. As long as we get that visual and that money is accountable and you know where it's going, I don't have a problem with it. But we've got to make that distinction, and coming up with the value statement is fine, but I'm looking forward to the policy. looking forward to the policy on this.
No, it's been said already. I mean, that our intention is to, we thought this was the better first discussion than haggling over details of a policy, and that if we could all agree on this, then the policy would flow more easily.
Yeah.
Mr. Forbes?
And basically, that's what I was going to say. This is just a guide for us to look at so that we can narrow it down into a policy that will be enforceable. But going back to what Mary said.
Procedures.
And Mary, you're exactly right about the PTA. I mean, some PTAs that I was affiliated with would raise money before I got there, and they would still have that money.
Their money, and that's not.
And the students who raised it did not benefit.
That's right.
And what we did is the principal and the school improvement team got together with the PTA, saw our greatest need, and then there was a purpose, and it was spent for that need that year.
That year, for the students. And we're now asking them to win the rewards.
Yeah.
All right, there being no further discussion, Mr. King, did you ask for a motion in support of this?
I did, I believe it was seconded.
It was moved by Mr. King and seconded by who, Ms. Pickle? Ms. by Ms. Camden. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor, aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same sign. Thank you very much. Mr. Carroll, financial update.
Good evening. Financial update was originally intended tonight to update the board on the potential impact of any ongoing shutdown of the federal government that has last week, about the time that we were ready to print the booklet, was still questionable. Since that time, the government has opened back up for business, and all money are flowing to us accordingly, at least for the time being, because we're taking through the end of this calendar year and into the new. It'll be time for it to get ratchet back up again. But we were most concerned about our child nutrition program, also as well as Title I dollars and exceptional children dollars that flow from the federal government. We're one of the fortunate school systems that have probably about 5 months plus of funding available within our child nutrition program to ward off the worst case scenario. So we're thankful there that again things are back open, but we must be mindful that that's only temporary. We'll be having these same discussions at a federal level in the next several months once we get past the Christmas holiday. We do have a finance committee meeting that is scheduled for this Thursday. I'll note that the time is early, a 4:30 start, so that everyone can make it through the Principal of the Year banquet. Starts at 6 o'clock, I believe, at Rock Spring. And you have at your seat a copy of the budget resolution for this year, as well as a financial overview that we'll be going through at our Thursday meeting. It's very similar in structure, basis as we do every single year, same format. But we're going to be going through that in detail on Thursday's meeting. So I wanted you to have it, so in case you have an opportunity to review before the meeting, you can do so. That's all I have.
One question I've got.
Mr.
Actually, if we had not had an amendment with the federal government, how actually close were we from not having yellow school buses run?
The yellow school buses would not have been impacted because they are funded primarily through state funding, which was not part of the overall federal.
Okay.
And so that was not in question at any time.
So we could have kept teaching for a time period?
Oh, but between, that's not conservative, I'll just say that. That we not be impacted by the
Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback on what let's turn the question on the other way. How would we have been impacted if the government was still shut down?
Well, it's my gut, and that's one of the first areas that the federal government will have to continue to be funded. Federal programs, specifically scholarship programs, that would have been questionable at all. But then again, we do have a good 5 months plus operating funds on hand just to be able to protect us against that. The federal funding, that budget should have continued as well. Maybe through the end of the school year, we could have got free with our carryovers. Then at things continued through, it would have been questionable. At no time was an instructional staff member in jeopardy of being sent home here in Pitt County. for at least a several-month basis. But you got to understand, if we go through 3 months with the federal government and we shut down, we got a lot more problems.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Cowan. Great information as always. Item E on the agenda is the November 18th Board of Education meeting. I believe, who asked for the addition of that item on the agenda? Ms. Council?
Yes.
Lead discussion.
Well, I had mentioned that on November the 18th, 19th and 20th. Yes, November 18th, 19th, and 20th. Some of our board members will be attending the North Carolina State Board Association's 44th Annual Conference in Greensboro. And since we are, I would just like to make a motion that we don't have a meeting on that night since we can't be here, and I think we're representing you, and it would be great not to have a meeting and some of the board members can't be here when we were trying to represent you at the state level.
Certainly. I guess my question would be, do you want to move the meeting or cancel the meeting?
If we don't have anything, we can do it all on the 4th. It would be great. If not, then we can put it on another day.
I think that you and Dr. Linker kind of work it out, and if you don't think we have enough items, just move to the next month.
To next.
Regular time.
That sounds good to me.
Just as a point of clarification, which members are planning to attend? Thank you. All right. Very good. So what would your favor be with that, Ms. Council?
I would like to move that we cancel the November 18th Board of Education meeting due to the state conference.
Very good. Ms. Council has moved. It's been seconded by Mrs. Williams. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, is there any costs that we're footing for that?
Yes.
Yes.
What is the cost associated with that, Mr. Pittman?
Registration is $465 coach bill. It's near the same, plus travel, plus meals. There are a couple of meals in it.
Do you have a further question, Mr. Kenny? Is that satisfied?
Asked and answered, sir.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All right. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Item 7, comments by Superintendent. Beverly.
Just quickly, I'd like to thank Cheryl, Olmsted, and Tom Feller for their work on the Race to the Top grant, and the whole curriculum team did a great job. It's a long shot, but what we will get out of this is an instructional focus for Pitt County schools for years to come. So we get some good stuff out of that. Plus, we had some great visits last week with the Eric Gocan from the governor's office, as well as Representative Brown and Representative Martin. We got to go saw some of the teachers just out here tonight. So we got to see some good instructional practices in all the schools.
Comments that I have, again, I'd like to thank the board for a very good meeting this evening. I think we've had productive discussion about a number of topics that are very important. I think, again, anytime we have a chance to highlight our teachers that are working so hard in our schools, that's a positive thing.
It is.
And the number of small hands and lives that they're impacting is a great testament to what our teachers do on a daily basis. So thank you to them for their time and their efforts. Mr. Forbes?
I would just like to also say, piggyback on that the topics that we're discussing and the policies that we're looking at and the instructional emphasis that we're placing upon technology is showing what we as a board are all about, and that we are really concerned in the instruction and the ensuring that our teachers and students get the best education that they possibly can get. And I would challenge anyone that otherwise, when you look at what we're doing and looking at our financial aspect, looking at the grants that we're working on, looking at the grants that the teachers are putting forth and using their time and effort, that we are an instructional-based board I believe we have moved to that point. And it's taken some transition, but I think that we are on the right track to having a good system and placed a big effort on instruction and technology and math and just things that are pertinent to a child's education.
No comment.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. Ms. Little?
No comment.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cummings. Ms. Williams?
Yes, I'd like to thank my teachers over at Belleville Elementary. They did a book. I had everything written out and forgot it, but I'm an honorary member of the New Book Club at Belleville Elementary School, which I'm very proud of. I like to just thank everybody for a good meeting tonight, and I'm looking forward to the State School Board Association Conference. Been on the board 5 years. This will be my second time attending, so I'm looking forward to it and looking to bring back some information that can help us.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Peden? Thank you, sir. Mr. Kenny?
Welcome to Pitt County Schools, a unitary school system. I've said it before, it's going to be a historic year for Pitt County Schools, and it was with Judge Howard's decision the other day. I couldn't have been more honored to open that. I think we will look at that, and I feel it's been pretty quiet in the community. We are a unitary school system. That is huge, and I would just like to go on record in saying I'm very grateful for when I was born, because I was not raised in a segregated society, and segregation to me is just institutionalized evil. And I'm glad that we have something in writing from a federal judge that says we as Pitt County Schools do not support institutionalized evil, that we are a unitary and unified school system, and I continue to be honored to be on this Board of Education. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kenny. Ms. Council?
I'd like to ditto that, what Sean said. Also, I'd just like to say that Ms. Williams and I did get a chance to meet with our superintendent together, because we had some of the same issues of concern, and we also got to know him better. Also, on the day of unitary status, we saw so many raving reviews about it, but I was having so many parent and student concerns that day, so I didn't get a chance to respond. So there was around the same issues of racism and with some of our school principals and not really listening to parents. So out of the meeting, we're hoping that we can get a forum for parents to address their issues directly to our superintendent at some point in the very near future. So we have mentioned that, and hopefully that can happen, because sometimes parents feel helpless and they need to let someone above their principals know what's going on so they can hear it more than one time. The other issue is advocating for educators, which you heard tonight, and thank you, NCAE. And also, Ms. Williams and I did attend the 2.5-day conference. We paid our own expense in Greensboro with the North Carolina Caucus of Black School Board members, which was awesome. It was their 2013 Fall Retreat and Issues Forum, and their theme was Reclaiming Public Education, the Civil Rights Issues of Our Time. And it was at NCANT Greensboro. And some of the highlights for that meeting was legislative updates, economics of public education. We had a superintendent's roundtable, had 4 superintendents from across the state to be with us, and it was a diverse group of superintendents. Also, turning scores into scholarships, so that was really one of my favorites. And 2 of our Pitt County School alumni, Catherine Wills from South Central and Bridget Denby from J.H. Rose, was introduced to the groups because they are student scholars at A&T State University.
Ms. Council.
And they are former 4-H All-Stars. And also, I want to say that we're starting Ladies of Distinction again tomorrow at J.H. Rose.
Thank you, Ms.
Did I
Council.
go over my 2 minutes? I'm sorry.
Yeah, very quickly, Mr. Chair, I've had the opportunity, some with Worth and some on my own, to be out and visit with some schools for various and sundry reasons, and one of the responses that we continually get back from teachers and administrators is that Dr. Lincoln's already been there and has already been a part of working with them, and they just are very, very tickled and excited to see him in the schools, and I am too.
Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Very pleased with the Dr. Linker and everything that has gone on since then. Appreciate the weekly update on what you're doing, and it's a lot. Well pleased with the operation of the school board, unitary status, and when it came out, I guess my memo to everybody, yes, it just says that we're doing what we're supposed to do. That was the reasonable thing for us to do. And now I see this great school system, Pitt County, being even greater. And it's, you know, the enthusiasm that I see with the teachers from what we just saw here a few minutes ago. First, second graders, you know, electronic, you know, computers. And I sometimes wonder, you know, if everybody in that classroom probably don't start with the same intellect as far as keyboarding, but yet you see how enthused they are, and that's not only there. Power schools, right, everything, and I think we have the right mix to have a good year, and not only this year, but other years to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Owens?
Mr. Chairman, I forgot one thing. My meet and greet, Dr. Linker. I liked, at North Pitt High School, we had our meet and greet with the superintendent. I like to say that we had over 50 people there, 50 plus people in our school district throughout the state and our local community. But I would also like to thank the culinary students and Ms. Covington over at North Pitt High School. They did an excellent job of refreshments for all, and Dr. Cato and everybody. And I hope Dr. Linker enjoyed it, you know, and everything. So I would be remiss to not say that and to thank them again.
Mr. Forbes?
I move that we go into closed session to prevent the disclosure of student information as confidential under 20 U.S.C. 1232G and GS 115C402. Consult with our attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege on matters including Rhonda Everett and a juvenile female, LV, the Pitt County Board of Education, Cynthia Purvis, was the Pitt County Board of Education, NCGS 143.318.11A, and approval of closed session minutes from September 16, 2013.
It's been moved by Mr. Forbes. Is there a second? Second. It's been seconded by Mr. King. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? We'll take a 5-minute